All right. Picture this. You know that feeling when you're like scrolling through like a million movies trying to pick something?
Oh, yeah, totally. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. So you're looking at all these posters and like ever notice how many more dudes there are than women on like the movie posters?
Oh, for sure.
That's kind of what we're going to like deep dive into today.
Cool.
It's about gender representation, but on movie posters. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Data on the screen, numbers come alive. Male, female flows where the patterns thrive. Visual charts, public colors unify. Gender decoded, bringing truth to light. Small drum fill. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide.
Yeah.
10,000 movie posters, just counting up how many men and women's faces were on there. And well, you know, the results, they're really pretty surprising, I gotta say.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack this data. What does it tell us about, you know, Hollywood, these gender roles we see, and even, you know, maybe what gets us to buy tickets?
Yeah, and I think one of the fascinating things is that, you know, you kind of imagine when we see all this data, right? It's easy to think, oh, there's just going to be tons more male faces, right?
Right.
But one of the things that was interesting is that there's this huge peak at 0.
Like, okay.
You can imagine if you're looking at it on, like, a bar chart,
Yeah.
that means there's actually a ton of movie posters out there that have an equal number of male and female faces.
So that sounds like kind of hopeful at first glance, right?
Right.
Like things are maybe moving towards more balanced playing field.
Super encouraging, right? It suggests like a shift towards this inclusivity thing everyone's talking about. And whether it's driven by, you know, the industry itself or just audience demand, I think it's a positive thing.
But, and there's always a but, right?
Right.
We see this peak at 0, but then there's this overall skew towards, you know, the posters with a larger number of men.
For sure.
It's like this peak at 0, but then there's this bigger trend around it that kind of pulls everything off to the side.
Right, exactly. And as you move along that chart, right, and you start to see, you know, posters that have more and more men, what happens is you have this very sharp drop off. It's called the, you know, long tail of the data.
Yeah.
It shows that very few posters feature predominantly women. And that unfortunately reflects some of the persistent biases that, you know, we're still dealing with, where male characters often get the leading role treatment, both on screen, you know, in the movie itself, but also in how the movie's marketed.
Yeah. And this is where it gets, you know, I think really interesting and kind of thought-provoking. We're seeing this near absence of posters, like you said, where there are actually significantly more women on them than men. Like it's a blind spot kind of in the visual landscape of what we see.
Yeah, totally. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises some, I think, important questions. Like, why are there fewer female-led films being produced, especially in, you know, certain genres?
Right.
Are marketing decisions, you know, prioritizing a perceived broader appeal that favors, you know, the male leads? And what's, I guess, the lasting impact of this underrepresentation, both on the screen and in the posters that are, you know, promoting these films?
Yeah. I mean, you know, think about the last time you saw like a big blockbuster movie poster.
Yeah.
You know, how many of those posters really put women front and center?
Right.
I mean, do you think this imbalance at all affects which movies we choose to see?
That's a great question. How do you feel about it? Like, does it impact your choices at all, even if it's subconsciously?
And to, you know, go back to that long tail thing for a second, you know, it's got to be hard to change those deeply ingrained, you know, biases that lead to that long tail.
Oh, absolutely.
Like imagine trying to turn around a giant ship. It's not quick.
Totally. Even with some of the progress that we see, you know, that initial peak at 0, right?
Yeah.
It's still, those biases are still kind of reflected in that long tail. So I think it's just a reminder that change it takes time and a consistent, you know, effort.
But, you know, that's kind of what makes data like this so powerful, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, you know, numbers on a spreadsheet. It's like this starting point for, you know, bigger conversations and hopefully some real action.
Absolutely.
And by understanding these, you know, these patterns, I guess, that we see in this data, we can start to like challenge these biases and push for, more equality and how, everyone's represented.
Yeah, it gives us a really valuable lens, I think, through which we can examine the film industry and its marketing practices.
Yeah. So, overall, we're seeing some good signs of progress, but we're also seeing that, Hollywood still has a long way to go to get to, true gender equality in terms of representation. And especially in terms of who gets to take center stage, literally, on the posters.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely work to be done both in front of and behind the camera.
So the next time you're walking by, a movie poster, at the theater or wherever you see them, don't just see the faces. See the story the data is telling. What will it take to reshape that long tail and create a future of film that's truly balanced?
Great question.
That's all the time we have for today. See you next time.
See you then.
Never know what secrets are hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be uncovered.
And who knows, maybe we'll deep dive into some of your discoveries next time.
Until then, happy exploring.